till I come to full awakening by the merit of my deeds like generosity. May I achieve Buddhahood for being's benefit in the Buddha, Dharma, and assembly excellent. I take refuge till I come to full awakening by the merit of my deeds like generosity. May I achieve Buddhahood for being's benefit in the Buddha, Dharma, and assembly excellent. I take refuge till I come to full awakening by the merit of my deeds like generosity. May I achieve Buddhahood for being's benefit. May all mother sentient beings equal to space have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness free of suffering. May they abide in equanimity free of attachment and aversion to near and far. May all mother sentient beings equal to space have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness free of suffering. May they abide in equanimity free of attachment and aversion to near and far. May all mother sentient beings equal to space have happiness, the cause of happiness. May they be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness free of suffering. May they abide in equanimity free of attachment and aversion to near and far. By prostrating, offering, and confessing thus, by rejoicing, urging, supplicating to any little virtue that I have amassed, I dedicate all for full awakening. This ground topped with fragrant water and with flowers strewn is adorned by Meru forelands and by sun and moon. Seeing this to be a Buddha field, I offer it. May all beings experience this utterly pure land. Om Guru Ratna Mandala Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Hong. As befits the different wishes of sentient beings and their intellects, turn the Dharma wheel of vehicles, great and small and common, thus we pray.
Hello, hello. Good. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everybody. Little bit is different, right? Everybody and everyone. Um, Thank you. So I'm going to introduce a little bit for Drupon Palkyi law. And first of all, Welcome to White Lotus. This moment for teaching people profound and powerful practice at this Tibet called the Chod. As many people know that meaning Chod means actually in Tibet word Chod means cut up or
To
cutting up.
cut, yeah, cut up or cut through.
So that means everybody knows cut up, right? Actually, anything comes continues. So you need to cut up. You need to stop. So what is continuing calm and make trouble? It is called the ego grasping. Once you stopped or cut up your ego grasping, so there's no any suffering, no more suffering, no more problem, no more trouble. You understand? So that kind of profound practice is called the Chod. You understand? So you got the opportunity to practice today here. So what you need to do today only one thing, pay attention and keep in your mind. That really helps Dharma. Okay? You understand what I mean? Huh? So this is important. So why everybody want to practice, want to listen, want to study, right? Because we need to be free from suffering, right? Only that things. So Dharma lesson, Dharma teaching is not for making money, right? Actually, everybody knows money cannot make permanent happiness. So therefore, people seeking and looking so better to be happy life and without the suffering. That is only for Dharma practice, right? So Dharma practice means if you know significant or technique, and then even you no need to really be special or specific locations. Anywhere, anytime, Dharma with you. And then you always be happy. Because you keep in the Dharma mind, right? Dharma is not left in your house. And Dharma is not left in Dharma center. Dharma always with your mind. That is called the Dharma. That is called the Dharma practitioner. If you be able to do that. So okay, today this is one really special actually. But I don't know how else practice go with you. It's depending your time and your interested and your how much you can make enthusiastic effort. You understand? Only those things. So therefore, today I only wanted to say everybody need easy one and how to say have to be nice or have to achieve shortly, right? No need to practice very long time, year, right? And to do very easy things, right? So that is true practice. Such a good news if you realize. So real impact here meaning today pay attention for listen teaching and keep your mind. That is your responsibility today, right? Don't think back your home, walk, situation for tomorrow, what you need to do. Today here, like 2 3 days, don't think, oh, lots of time spent here, I need to do there, I need to do there. So don't go outside your mind today. Okay, they're meaningful. There's no regret. Moreover, you are really happy finish this weekend your practice. Okay, you understand? Okay, now probably that's all, and then let me short introduction for Drupon. Actually, we are same lineage, the Drikung Garchen. So now first we are means Drupon and me in the monastery. And second, we all are same lineage. It's a Drikung Garchen, we are all. Okay? So we know each other probably uh, more than 20 years ago. She was since 2001, huh?
Lo nhịp trong
Right?
in
2001.
2001.
And
2001 Jakarta yeah. Yes.
and so for we long times same area. He lives nunnery. I lived college, Kaju College. Very close. If you take walk, probably 10 minutes each other. So we know each other. We are same guru, we are same His Holiness, and we are same text to study Buddhism. Right? And also, he has done many Nyungni retreat. I don't know, Nyungni is Tibet word. I don't think their English word is correctly and perfect one. I don't know,
Yeah,
you know?
Avalokiteshvara fasting practice.
Well,
maybe?
yeah, that's better.
Yeah, Chandrasekhar fasting
I think
practice.
so. Because they are come from Avalokiteshvara, right? Avalokiteshvara is a big name and compassion of the Buddha's name, Chandrasekhar, right?
Yeah.
Real meaning is Nyungne, 1 day, 2 day, last day, you have to be empty stomach. You cannot
Fasting.
eat anything. Even the some text is very strict. You cannot swing the spike, right?
You can't even swallow your saliva.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's very strict. Yeah.
Really, so they're difficult. Whatever people say, you don't do that, you cannot do that, and people thinking more of that. And they're more difficult. If you think, here's a tea today, front of your table, put the tea. If somebody say you cannot drink it that, whatever you're thirsty today, and the people think that I need this, right? So similar, very strict. Anyway? So and many times you need retreat. I don't remember exactly how many times. And 6 years she studied Buddhism philosophy and Buddhism profound for Madhya text and Paramita text for 6 years. After 6 years, he has done already for 3 years retreats, the Five-Fold Mahamudra.
So after 6 years of study, she went into 3-year retreat.
Yes, after that, right? After
Yeah.
studies and 3 years retreat for 6 Naro.
6 yogas of Naropa.
Yeah,
for
very
Five-Fold Path of
interesting.
Mahamudra
Here,
and 6
English,
yogas.
6 Yoga Naropa. But real in Tibet word is
Dharma.
6 Dharma Naropa.
The 6 dharmas of Naropa is the
Yes.
actual word, not yoga.
Not yoga, really. Yoga right now, unfortunately, becoming for physical exercise. So therefore, with the 6 Dharma, is many people difficult to understand. You understand? But anyway, this is not really today's topic. Just I pick up then randomly and kind of meaningless. I'm sorry, there's no need to tell that.
No, that's good.
So anyway, and then she already done. And then also many Tibet education things like Tibet grammar and poetry and some other history of the Dharma, the Chunjong history of the Dharma. So many things already studied perfectly. And then 2013, the one of the Drikung Garchen Dharma Center in the Germany at the Munich, they invited her to over to teach the people at the Dharma Center in Munich. Germany. Okay, and 2014, when I was there, he already was there, and he studied for German language, Deutsche, what is it?
Oh, Deutsche.
Uh,
Yeah.
Deutsch, yeah, he very well. So if someone speak German today, he will teach in German language today. That's really good.
Keine Deutsch. Oh, okay.
So many things and done. So today, and also he went to Thailand. I know, or 6 months, isn't it? That was two.
Taiwan là
Taiwan
cái
là.
gì, Shu Yin?
Đó là chị.
That was 8 months for practice, for teach people and to study for a little bit Chinese. I think so, I guess, but I'm not sure that. Also, this is not important to you. Uh, and this year, Virginia organized and help for translator. That's very wonderful. And many Dharma centers. He sincerely, nicely, perfectly, he knows Tibet language, like native Tibetans. And very helpful for people. This is, I would like to say really thank you very much for that support and helping others. So many, many benefits for others. Okay? And then, Drupon, thank you very much for coming here at Lotus and teaching people for a while here. And this is appreciate. Thank you very much. Probably that's all. Huh? Anything
Thank
left
you.
there?
Very good. Thank you.
Huh?
Yeah, maybe I'll just mention a sort of special shout out to Drikung. I think it's Drikung Dharma. Wait, sorry, I forgot the name of. Drikung Dharma Kirti International, who also sponsored Drupanla's international ticket to come here. So also kind of made it possible for all of the different centers to invite her within the U.S. So just a special thanks to them too.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, rejoice. Okay, thank you very much. And this morning, Dropola will be going to teach. I think so. I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
And afternoon, I think so. Maybe practice
Practice.
together.
Yeah.
I believe you have Damaru if you bought or if you borrow, whatever. I think
Yeah,
so
that
with
is
you.
a question, I guess. Are there chud drums for sale or for people maybe to use? Are there any that people might be able to practice with? Do you know? Oh, okay, maybe not.
Some people have what it
them.
is.
Okay. Oh, some are on the way. Okay.
So many people have ordered and paid for it, but they are not here yet.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, or today,
I
or
see.
also one thing is here, Virginia, we just practice recently, like only 2-3 times
Mm-hmm.
for drummer or how to play, practicing
Mm-hmm.
how
It
to
takes a
play
while.
the drummer and ringing the bell. So
Yeah.
just really, really beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't worry about that. We kept practice and how to say monthly, weekly, whatever we have time. Don't worry. But today more important, keep in the meaning of the teaching and the true meaning of the true. And whatever she teaches today, this is a priority today. So don't worry about how to play the drummer and the bill. This is secondary. It's not important. You have chance, you have opportunity, and a time from after this event, all the time. So then you can
Practice.
really, really practice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Otherwise, you just more focus on your drummer. Your chanting is miss, and so therefore chant and meaning important today. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Thank you. Any question? Probably not. Now exciting to listen teaching. Okay, thank you very much. And I will see you soon. Okay.
Kimpo Concho Mona Rabochi Chisola Tini Inga Tingma Tambo Tene Jorati Tinapa Javala Peka Chons.
Tashi Delek, everybody, she's really happy to be here. A special thanks to Kimbo Koncho Monlam Rinpoche and to White Lotus for inviting her here. This is her first time to visit this center.
Any that train Kosal Sote Sosa de Jutema Kanaka Sachia Yina Yang Kimpo Concho Monanka Konga Chive Lasang at Tindetine Chishi Maris Yina Yang Tang Aranke Kan Shishi Tang Sosoka Nyamnyong that is the Kan Tap Machina Para Shiaka can do fires.
So she will share some instruction with us on the practice for Kusali So Chu, the Chud practice of Kusali Chud practice. She said she knows she can't offer anything more than what Kimpo Monam has been able to or is able to provide like instruction on this practice, but she will share, what she knows to the best of her ability, and, also guide us in some of the details for actually engaging in the practice.
Ani the Kasal so jute be Tata de Tong race duba Yina Yang Ani be Tain Sapo. Tini Joban Jing Garrison Yersina Sapchina, Tini Kong Be Tain Sapo da Nyamni zo Jegoya Be Kitchen Tain Sapo. Tenjeri Sondo.
So the Kusali Chud is a very abbreviated, concise Chud practice, but it's very profound. It comes from Lord Jigten Sumgun, and in his collected teachings, it's in the category of the kind of most profound or secret section, which is called the Zapchu. And so Jigten Sumgun himself has emphasized the importance and the blessings and profundity of this practice.
That the Bejana China Bag Zebina, Jobanji Dinsung Sapchin Tomo Mai Bakosales. That Gosales Yate Jagarke Case in Nanda, Tindari, Book the third Jovina, any and Dishi Sums Java da Tonwa Nyara Som Mato, any Nyamni Muntune Chigoyade, any Jawa, Kalasawa, any Jatonya, and a Nyaya Marit Jingbatang Roya, De Mato, any Nyamni Chigoya Pet Garchen Boreson.
And so it is. So in the text, or the name of the text itself, so we have there's Kusali. So Kusali is a Sanskrit term, and then chud, we say chud in English usually, which is, as Kimbo mentioned, cutting off or cutting through, and so it is said that, and this comes from this section of Lord Jigten Sumgön's Zapchu, or the profound teachings of Kyopa Jigten Sumgön, and he has said that this is, one of the most profound teachings or practices, and it is Kusali, is referring to like the kind of ascetic practice of, so when people really dedicate themselves to the practice of Chod, then there's complete sort of cutting off of all superfluous activity, and so there's really only 3 activities that comprise one's time. So that's eating, sleeping, or apart from eating, sleeping, and using the bathroom, basically, then one's time is completely consumed with practice.
And ju sinye de tang zo dor de ban de shisha na danjing ge jiak. Din ting chang in da ta chang ma danji shok chena den sem da kanga lul kanga den namal kanga longbal kanga chang ma danji ni jibet chongres. And the two de yapo nyamne de jeswana tin so so ke danji de chong ta ya. Danji de mewa chia ani sadar na shi ta tu sadar lana sadar sinitela shida kala mampo saya mi pa maza par sadar chin de yote ke ani to lo la shida chanji mi pa kala chanji mi pa ta jose panjor ning kare na chanji nyon ta ya de ke chu de danji chong ta ya res.
And in brief, what Chod is really all about is cutting through or diminishing the mind of self-grasping. So it is, all this skillful method that is specifically directing, the fixation of the body and mind, and slowly diminishing the mind of self-grasping. And together with the practice itself, there's like conduct that is assumed or practiced to further diminish this grasping. So practicing, for instance, moderation, maybe extreme moderation of really, having less attachment to food, less attachment to clothing. So when one is really like an advanced Chod practitioner, they don't have many clothes, they don't have much attachment to clothes, they don't have much attachment to food, so they don't need to eat as much. And so part of the practice of Chod to also go towards diminishing this self-grasping and attachment in general is practicing a certain level of asceticism or moderation.
And then that Toma de la that's also que chu ni bu gab the gong long zena da dor de ta ta mang bo ke mai lo man ning ba de ten go cha de de ke chembo na ni ani chun sam te pang gores den ni kan sina mo zo zo chang ma sem ma de gangar de dongar de tek chongres sem ma de sem dor ma tan ani karisina ta lu chodar la shok de na tin yang le kare pamare pinjare ta karena chama sem se lo la yin so na chu tin she de na ni am chot tu to go mares ani de no je na no ka bam ne de den cho lo de na ani nang lun zu mare de de cha de res ani lu chodar la shona yi de solo la sem de solo la yin so na ani chu ka se she na nu de shabla ikon po na ma bosan chik pares ani de de so chon de pangores ni yang lu chodar la shok jang ani nyu mo ban de cha she da de mo de so ngang na de wa na ani de perna nu jing na nu zama mai ban so jing na kala sun zuwaina kala shimpo yo mare tog na shi o di na shi ke ni nimong den ji so na ni kala na tog lo je de ji ba cha ro res den de lu chudra le shok jang sim selo ma yin pa ni de go ya ke chen po res.
So when we receive these teachings, it's really important that we really allow our mind to be completely present here with our body. We're sitting on the cushion, we're receiving these teachings on Chod, and really, as is the case with all Dharma practice. So many of you are like senior students, or you've been practicing for some time, so you already know the importance of, really at first establishing a pure motivation, and really making an effort to be present and fully engaged as we receive Dharma teachings. So they often say that the way to do this is by avoiding the 3 faults of the vase. So mainly, all of our difficulties come from the fact that our mind is not tame, that we don't have control over the mind, and so there's so much distraction. So often what can happen is like our body is present, but our mind is wandering elsewhere. We're distracted, we're thinking about our jobs, we're thinking about our parents, we're thinking about family and friends, or different concerns that kind of occupy our attention. So we want to make a concerted effort to leave those concerns to the side and to really be present, to allow our mind to be present with our body, which is sitting here on the cushion, and to avoid what is referred to as being like an overturned vase, meaning it's upside down, so there's no opening. So if there's an overturned vase, you can't pour anything into it. The water just slides off the side, down the sides. There's no point of entry. And so that is when maybe our body is present, but our mind is not really present. We're not receptive. We're thinking of other things. Likewise, we should avoid, it is said, being like a vase with a crack in it, which is also really largely attributed to having a distracted mind when we're kind of present, but we're still, really kind of, our mind is partially elsewhere and we're thinking about other things. And we might be listening, we might be hearing what we're saying, but we're not retaining it. So because we're sort of not fully engaged or fully present. And so it's like being a vase with a crack in it, kind of in one ear and out the other. There's water being poured in, but just as is it being poured out, it's also leaking out. It's not being retained by the vessel. And then the third fault that it's really important to avoid is being present, but being strongly afflicted. So having strong thoughts or emotions of attachment, aversion, ignorance, jealousy, arrogance, because then we become like a vase that it's upright and open, but it has poison in it. So whatever you pour into that vase is going to end up being contaminated by the poison. So that's why we also have to take care to purify our intention, to put aside any thoughts of based on negative emotions, and to really be listening with a pure, open, and receptive mind.
That Jora simti tambas, uyumi taban jog hoa tamba de yoga pe namba sanje pe get bot za chimboris. Jora simti tamba de da simti tam cheke any pama maze be chikyam me ba de ni mozo dinan sonda major nankanya ta simti nam pama maze be perna nankala pe lando nankana ye che zongje che chong le jia chen bo de yor zhen de che lin je me de jin sim ji de za chang ma je wa to ma da par de ani pa ma je bi chi chang yo ma re pa ma je de di chi de ngo zo ke chu ge wa kang zhe ta de la ani sim ji tam che ke chi de ngo ran zu ge chudravate gevakan gevatsawakan sabade simji tamchirange pingo sanni konglong de yuna ani ngotoka chunyamne che la karesna pinto yupa tende chade de mato che ngai chipo ke samdena ani penna tekpa chechong cheper simji songyare dendu tekpa chimbo ke tam manjer nang tadnya simji tamche sanje jing kompang matab je parde nge ropa chi samne tinde chen nyamne ji yore tekpa mi ba de soke deni nite da ranjar ke ani rang ji bo de sanje jene da tarpan kompang la toya chi de rang ji bo anything or tinde de cha de yores dendu golong de pe ja chimbo yoga ya de pe ke chimbo res.
So it's also another thing that is important to also apply, when we're engaging in any Dharma practice or receiving Dharma teachings, is what is referred to as the three excellences. So that is sort of sealing our practice with three mind states at the beginning, middle, and end. So first we have the excellence of the pure motivation at the outset, the excellence of non-distraction, or sometimes it's even goes so far as to say non-referentiality during the actual practice or activity, and the excellence of the pure dedication at the conclusion. So the first, which is the excellence of the pure intention or motivation at the outset, then at any time we're practicing, we should take a moment to kind of make our mind expansive and vast, and to consider all sentient beings, and to think about the fact that as vast as space is vast, there are sentient beings, and all of those sentient beings have at one point in time or another been my own kind mother or father. So we've all taken so many countless births, and since beginningless time and cyclic existence, that we've had connections, close connections with all beings at one point in time or another. And so there's this feeling of closeness, this affection that is based on understanding that there is closeness there. That's why we say all mother sentient beings. And the example that is given is that of space or the sky, because that is how extensive and vast, these connections with all beings extend to. And so we start with that feeling of affectionate regard, love, and compassion for beings. But then we also have the intention that whatever virtue, whatever Dharma practice that we engage in, that there's the intention for it to go toward the benefit and well-being of all sentient beings, both on a temporary level, but also on an ultimate level. So it's not that we're just practicing for our own sake, to achieve our own benefit. We automatically achieve our own benefit through our practice, but this is really what signifies the distinction between the lesser vehicles and the great vehicle, or Hinayana and Mahayana. It's the degree of kind of altruistic intent extending to become bodhicitta that makes it real Mahayana practice, meaning that there is this passionate resolve to bring all sentient beings, all mother sentient beings, to the state of awakening through our practice. That's really what we're practicing for. And so the motivation of the lesser vehicle is one that's really primarily focused on self-liberation, reaching the state of awakening and becoming free from samsara to end one's own suffering, which is also necessary, but it doesn't have to stop there. So this kind of limited motivation then leads to the ripening of the awakening of Shravakas and Pratyekya Buddhas. But it is the motivation of bodhicitta that leads to complete Buddhahood or complete unsurpassed awakening. So this is why the first, of these three excellences, the pure motivation at the outset is very important. So what we want to do is make our motivation, our altruistic intent, as vast as we possibly can.
And tikpa mimba sinye de kashig lagre da tikmi de tikpa mimba res. Ni tikpa mimba sinye de rani jikbo sheva deva no gopang soya chi de yu tingmi sinye da go ya jum sideri. Ani da tikpa chimbo de ni da karela buju nadi jena date so tang so tikpa chimbo yin lagre yina yang arang ke tuna tikpa mi banana tikpa chimbo ke nyamne chi ki yores tikchina na tikmi ke nyamne chi ki yores kainjina so simchi chechong gonglong de zo de nangba de so ke zo de semlara le de yore Gedamge sem dea chedere mala pinsam samba yoga ke chembore chu jiwi kapsala chu so nane chu yapo drip yapo ni cholon rosat payo dende mares chu sineden sem jechu te tangbo ni chu nyamne sem jechu ta ya sem de yapo soya ke chete ani chu sinede delra le de yores Dendetini Nano ni chu nyamne chi Chiloza de man chokpa ja kamako Zimashi roden and Trihio Mores. Oh, that now nga chu tende tu song. Tanga cholondo de mala pinsam ta gawa deva trego to tende ropache. Oh, tende de ketchimbo tachimbo rishas. Ni kareson is na Kanza ke Kanza tu menzilar. Na tikpa chechong te chepar yo mares tikchi na tinana tikmi yore laimba tikmi na tikchi yore laimba kanza chu mese kanza su tik kanza ke kanza chu mese te chiran tikmi ridas te tikchi rida jong so ko lap ya yo mares kulong ja chembo te ke chembo res
So what really distinguishes Hinayana from Mahayana or great vehicle or lesser vehicle from great vehicle, it's not actually the teachings or the tradition of practice or the types of practices or the countries that these different kind of styles of Buddhism are practiced in. It really has to do with the mind of the individual. So she said, we as Vajrayana practitioners would say like, oh, we're Mahayana practitioners, we're practitioners of the great vehicle. And there's this assumption, but really that's not necessarily the case. It really has to do with the mind of the practitioner. So there are some who, kind of feel themselves to be belonging to the Mahayana, who might actually have a Hinayana intention or mind state. And likewise, there are many practicing in what we might label, Hinayana practice, but actually their intention is really vast, and so they're actually practicing at the Mahayana level. So whether Mahayana or Hinayana really exclusively has to do with the degree or the scope of one's own intention inwardly, the vastness of one's mind, the presence or absence of bodhicitta. And so there is, when somebody is really focused on benefiting others, they're, as a result of their Dharma practice, they are really developing their character in such a way that they're bringing those objectives that are in their Dharma practice out into the world. They're benefiting others. They're treating people with kindness. Their own conduct is become very pure. So Dharma practice does not end with formal practice on the cushion. It has to extend beyond the formal practice. It has to be brought out into the world, whereas, somebody really considers themselves a practitioner and they're doing a lot of formal practice, but then they go out into the world and they're fighting with people, they're judging people, they're, creating conflict, they're stealing, or they're being dishonest, then this is not, something is not right here, something is not lining up. So it's really important that we have the formal practice, but it's even more important that it has the effect of transforming our mind in a lasting way, so that our qualities are increasing, that we're becoming more benevolent in our intentions, that we're more helpful to others, that we're consistently putting others first, that our activities in the world are really rooted in pure intention. So this is really important. And it's also really important to know, so that is, what sort of determines the vehicle of our practice, whether we're real Mahayana practitioners or not. And we can never judge another person. We can't gauge what somebody else's level of practice is. So we can't say somebody is a Hinayana practitioner or someone's a Mahayana practitioner, because we don't really know. There's no way for an individual to really accurately see what is kind of going on with another individual. That's all. Atene jema la gare sungyen che pache de give sare.
Ganza tsu singamare la. Din lame.
Okay.
Any guys junjo na gare song yesna. Simji ban yindun sir yanda zobu sanchok simji. Simji ba simji tamchela dewa dendo ge chamba dang dinde jinne simji sona susu tikpa chimbo nyamne jen golong changma je sona ani susu sanje jen gompang la top mago sanna togores.
So as it says in the Bodhicharya Avatara, or the way of the Bodhisattva, bodhicitta, which is bodhicitta, which is directed toward the welfare and benefit of others, is the cause that brings about perfect awakening or Buddhahood. So when there is the cultivation of bodhicitta, which is always directed towards the wish for the welfare and happiness of others, both in a temporary and an ultimate sense, then whatever practice that is done that's based on that pure intention will automatically go toward the result of Buddhahood. It just naturally leads to awakening. It's a cause and effect relationship there.
Chambata ninja ninjo yonga yore. Ani dewa dindu ke chambata simji tamje dewa dindu ke chambata simji tamje donghar je chandu ke ninja te kores. Ta simji layate kashe shige jeri kashe sawaina ha kojima simji semi utsa changma ngozo pama maji chikyan mare ngozo ke jiwa thoma mipa ngozo nangba sanje pa ke pa shin tsa jiwa linya yupa yumchi na tene ani ngozo ke te simji tham je ngozo pama maji chikyan mede ani tela dewa dindu ke chamba dongar chandu simji tham je dongar chandu ningji dinje je yusuna ani sanje jing gopang la ani la na mipa sina pe gong na mipa dia sa mipa la ani togores.
So bodhicitta is kind of based first on developing immeasurable love and immeasurable compassion. So immeasurable love we can define as being the wish for others to have happiness. So we say the happiness and the causes of happiness. So it's desiring to see others united with happiness, to have happiness. And then compassion is defined as being the wish that wants to see others be alleviated from their suffering, the desire for beings to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So she said, maybe many of you already know this, but the word that we use when we translate it in English is sentient beings, which is actually kind of a sort of a funny translation. I mean, we could just say living beings, actually, like all living beings, but it is, the word itself in Tibetan is sim and chin. Sim means mind, and chin means one who has. So it's essentially all those embodied beings who have consciousness, who have minds. And so we have this, as she said before, or, again, of all these beings that have minds, that take life in all of these different varieties of forms and different realms, they've all at one point in time or another, we've all been connected with one another in a close relationship, like as mother and child, father and child, and so forth. And we take birth, it is that the mind continues on, when one life comes to an end, then that consciousness travels propelled by the force of karma and takes life in a different form. And so this is what's happening for all of us as we circle endlessly in samsara and cyclic existence. And so when we have bodhicitta, we first have that feeling of affection and love, recognizing the closeness and wanting all beings to be happy, and then recognizing the immense pain and suffering that beings experience in samsara and wishing for them to be free of suffering. So we have compassion, and then recognizing that the only way for beings to really be free from suffering is to become free altogether from samsara, to be liberated from samsara, and to reach the state of awakening, of enlightenment, to become Buddhas. And so that's really the definition of bodhicitta, is that it is the wish to lead all sentient beings to the state of unsurpassed awakening.
Tsosaya ke chide ni namju na ngoso ke yan chupan ber ma jimba tang us treyak jimba tang ting che chi yore yan chupan ber ma sim jin na jimba tang ta tren chu de nyamne de so ke luk jimba tang yares den tsosaya chide ta ta kong nge shipa na ji ke ni sadra ke nyani Chadar kenyamni rigana den rituke be pangok ta jimbataya mi ngus sanzenge jimbataya mi teni jeze panjo jimbataya mi tetso ta luk jimbatang o ta trende ta luk jimbataya res ta ngoso ke te nyamne de teng sapo yimpa namju ngoso hla gomna nga dana da karena soso sem derya ke chede tene la gompa kapsala soso ke ranu te tene jimana shi la gonko yore te la gompa kapsa jima na shi mentor na shi ene jya den zia minpa jau kara ji che gonko yore ta ti gom drive kapsala kare la thok de yore sina soso ke sem den jimba tin ya danjin shi ya nga sinite mipa te zoya de ni tinjin che jao garam ji je gomsona jimba de mangbo je gomsona ni lukin jimba shuya chungya charore de indu tren ju de den jewa chimbo yore ju de da soso ke rang number chi ba de ni dorje pamo namjor jitun dorje namjor chi 아니 소소 알레데 Teni jimba tangna tendrechini migram chiyares. Tendu ta tso saya de dripa janya de chi de ta luk jimba tangya de tren. Teni nan diorlanda da kashekata sanskrit da yogis, yoginis. Tendre lakada o tendreke teni jimba tangya ke bezo nangares.
So the practice of Chod is a really kind of powerful way to engage in the gathering of the accumulations, purifying obscurations and gathering of accumulations. And what we're doing as the method for gathering accumulations, or essentially the method of generosity, is through offering the body. So we're offering the body, and we're offering it both, up as offering to the exalted ones and down in generosity to sentient beings in need. And it is really, that's what the effort, it is to gather the accumulations of merit and wisdom. And so it's the method of generosity for like the ascetic, for the yogi, because, for somebody who lives a life of extreme moderation, or who has taken up a life of like poverty, or just living in kind of the mountains without many belongings, they don't have means to practice material generosity. They don't have a lot of possessions, and so this is how the practice of Chod comes about, is that then not having other ways to offer, then they practice offering their body through meditation, through visualization and meditative absorption, and so. In addition to this, it's also, of course, just as all Dharma practices, a method for taming the mind. And this is just as when we meditate on ourselves as a deity and we recite mantra, and in the same way that we practice here with Chod, visualizing this offering of the body, the way that we visualize is just like we do in the generation stage, that the visualization is seen as being illusory, it's appearing, and yet it's empty in nature, like the appearance of a rainbow in the sky. And it is, as we offer the body, it is a way to diminish our fixation to the body. So we're actually cutting through this is a really powerful practice for cutting through the mind of self-grasping. And the way that we visualize is that we kind of separate our body from our consciousness. Our consciousness, we visualize arising in the form of Vajra Varahi, or Vajra Yogini. And then we're visualizing, putting the contents of our body into the skull cup and offering it up. And then in doing so, we purify obscurations and we accumulate merit, we accumulate wisdom. And so this is really the generosity practice of the Naljor, is the word in Tibetan, which is what we translate as yogi or yogini. So this is the generosity practice of the yogi or yogini.
Ani nanjol la de karesina lam yang tagba wang de jirwana nanjors. Ani telam betson chine ta tren ngotoke zo de karesina ta tan jikten som ku kasar chosa de ani ngarang na ti kong me ba da long me ba ani chi na ba ma chi aten de mares ngarang na che karesna losom chusum chan de ne ani de la gonda tak par nyam ne je de ne tata ina ta kasa kala chu ta gom nyam ne ko la ma po chi ne ro yus de de kong ta long ti ta long ri chi ri nyam ne ri chama ti Chedi Tsuntunda Shuna China Palma Kanta Tashuis
Gongta Dangpo de Naljur ki kola
Nanjur de Yang Takper Lam Wang de Jurwa 다스 많이 버추 제로점 투로점 배나 된저 많이 방문에 그 양답을랑라 니암슬랑네 된저 제선은 난디올라 그래서.
So a Naljor or a yogi or yogini is someone who really has devoted themselves to the completely to like really authentic practice and the completely pure path. So it isn't just, that they have the outer appearance of a practitioner, they wear like yogi clothes or, and sort of present themselves as a practitioner, but inwardly they have to have the like inward devotion to authentic practice of the yogi. And so so Drupon Lawa just wants to say that as far as sharing this practice with you all, she's not it's not as though she sort of knows it or she's not fully authorized. She is fully authorized to teach and to transmit this practice. She herself has practiced Chod extensively. When she did the 3-year retreat, she did practice Chod every night, every day on a daily basis, and continues to practice. She has, all of the empowerments, transmissions, and teachings, and she is these days really asked to teach Chod all over the world. So she travels, and perhaps one of the teachings and practices that she is most frequently asked to give is Chod.
And da ma jertange chu chungsa den dorte je shushan ya po yore chu chungcha de ngozo sage kanye ris ma chepa sage kanye ris ma chepa saja
Sakya?
gelo kaju nyingma changma chungsa de ngozo dorte na sage kanye lare sage kanye pele lore sage kanye ris ma chepa la teni Toma ju chungsa de majik la jones ngozolene ta khahe lagar nga ke ju chuma na mo nge nyane ji ju nge jalu kun do nge nyane ji nge kosal choji de jik pares chungsa ta ama ngozol ama jikla pu ngozo penna tal le kare la re jertang nangba sinye de xingdong jigla pe yan xingdong dela deni yarga da loma mangpo yora dina shi chepartia yo mares en chiranzo kashe yang yo tata jetun dor dinam jerma nyamni maje jinda jesana chiranzo yedam soina de jor chores so ka inji miji zobje tang to ko mares ni soso ke namjo nyamne kare chena ti hla de soso ke tende che chores ani lubjin de taran che yana ko chungsa de majak labjong de chepat khaya yo mares hla chi gomna hlabja song yore hla chi gomma hla ja chang de yore ni hla chi jawate ani janchok semre La chan chok sem mi ba je la je yo mare de ji pares.
So she says that so just to give you, it would also be good to just give you kind of a little bit of brief background about the practice in general. So Chod is a practice that is actually rime in a sense that it's practiced by all of the different lineages. So Sakya, Gelug, Nyingma, Kagyu, everyone practices Chod, but all of the different lineages, the source of this practice is Machik Labdran. So she is really the mother of Chod. And some people really think of it as being that there's some sort of difference, like, oh, I practice Troma Nangmo Chod, I practice Rainbow Body Chod, I practice Kusali Chod, but really they're all the same in essence, and they all come from the same mother. So it's like like a big tree with a very sturdy, large trunk and deep roots that then blossoms into many different branches with different leaves and fruits. And so all of the leaves and fruits are really the same essence. They come from the same trunk, the same tree. So the mother of all of these different Chod practices or traditions is Machik Labdran. And also, it should be said that, in this, we visualize our mind as Vajrayogini, but you might practice a particular Yidam deity, so it's fine to practice, to visualize yourself in the form of your Yidam, in the form of your deity, because they're the same in essence. And as is said, that there is in practicing a single deity then you accomplish hundreds of deities or 100 deities, that there's no difference, essentially meaning that the essence of all deities is the same. The deities are simply a manifestation of bodhicitta. It's like bodhicitta given form. And so we have all of these they're the different forms, the different colors, the different attributes, but they're really all one in essence. And that single essence is the essence of bodhicitta.
Any the nguyala that the Jertan the migram de carre desina. Jutore chinchiwa miram de data teni chiparisha. In it jutore chinchiwa, Lanayang Jujayor. Deda data ngozo Kasal nang the you but the Gandonk, the mapper the miram jayora, chiparisha tente. Pejani kitike
Chutso Rinchin Chingwa Sure,
Jutor and Chinchiwa Conte Tatere na Jikin Songumare. The
Rigs and Chugidrapa.
Tajertanke Kaju can yamne Chihori. And it the migram the Chikparisha. And it then that pegs Rani Kitty Yamchi Moserjan Dotisita. Kandong ma per capsula, tan yamne migram de caressina, then yam chim shirsi colister poimpa, then cha yumpa, chani tamboka ligwam zinde sa nipa then oma sa ye the nipa take oma ni can yam yaze take the judges j gongores.
So the chani the boom share jengi boom
Cha tamboke. Luam in a potent in the kitchen. Potent in San Nipa take an enriching yam yan. Yeah,
Shimbani?
Cha tang bote, chai tampo, Luam zimba. Yanchimo certain in Chalo Yonsa. Sa ye the tampo take a Luam zin, Nipa take a yam yan. Tipechana Sarodo.
Yore, Pechala Yore. So Chak Chik Leg Mom, Dene Shimba, Young Dorje. Dene Shimba Ni, yeah. Okay. So with the visualization here, so also the visualization, the stages of visualization are actually the same as in another text that is well known called the Precious Garland, or the Chuso Rinchin Chingwa. And here we start on page 2, we have the Pe, and then, as it says, the self is instantaneously transformed, or we arise. It's as the enlightened form of Prajnaparamita, whose body is golden in color, endowed with all of the garments and ornaments of the Sambhogakaya form with 4 arms. So the first 2 hands are holding a Vajra and a Prajnaparamita text, a volume of scripture, and the other 2 hands are resting in her lap in the gesture of meditative equipoise. So first, before we become Vajrayogini, we're arising in the form of the Great Mother Prajnaparamita.
Any that Kandong Bu Kapsala Migram de Terry, Nipa Manya, Uya Chuk Nyamni Chendo Kapsala, and Vajra Yogi in Chad Yores, Nyamni Chekores. Then do any Chujukola, Chukungola, and Yam Chimo Shersi, Longa Ngola, and Gypton Dordinam Germa. They didn't chepa tenders.
Gongta deni ka kangdung bewe ka la de
Migram, Yam Chimo Shersi.
yumchimoro.
Yeah.
So we're visualizing ourselves as Prajnaparamita when we're blowing the thigh bone trumpet. So that's what happens first here. Then we when we hit the thigh bone trumpet and then blow the thigh bone trumpet to summon the spirits or the entities. And then when we do go into the actual practice of Chod, then we're visualizing ourselves as Vajrayogini. But there isn't actually a difference. They're the same in essence. It's just that Prajnaparamita is the Sambhoga, or the Dharmakaya form, and Vajrayogini is the Sambhogakaya form.
And that didn't ma Jatan Tojo Nyamli Jacobs Hako younger, and then the Jumbo Chiva Nyam Chuan, Tango took a candon be capsula, then it Kate, Kelan Jade, and Yim Chimo Chujiranda in two comes some jitam, two songs, some Tejana, Ma Berber capsa, Migram Tejagores.
Kamsum, got it?
Come some, down come some, do comes me come. Yora. That didn't come some, do comes me come some nana. That's Simji Mandupatia Yomare. Mandupatia Yomare.
So Simchin Chatsang
Someone do yore, do comes me come. And it comes some that someone does on the dege, jade, markandon be the jade, and yim chim or Jimmy Chujira, Jiwami but jade. Two songs, Chujiranda. Jiwami but jade, and the two songs, something jetting that in it. So, Gandon Bug of the Taz, Jati Pongo, Jitan, and oh, that day I'm children, Nipo do something did my and the tutor son of Tanya the kitchen boys.
So when we practice, and of course it will become clearer when we go through the practice, and she does, because first like you say these words and you and between each line or recitation on the first page here, you hit the end of the thigh bone trumpet on your hand, and then you blow the thigh bone trumpet 3 times also in between these other lines that are recited. And so it's important to know that when we sound the thigh bone trumpet, the sound that is emanating is the sound of Prajnaparamita, or the self-resounding sound of Dharma, or the self-resounding sound of the unborn nature. So it's like the unborn essence, the unborn nature. And we can think that that sound is pervading the entirety of the 3 realms, the desire realm, the form realm, the formless realms. And within all the 3 realms, it's summoning all sentient beings without exception. So all sentient beings of the 3 realms are summoned. And they are summoned by this self-resounding sound of the unborn nature. And so it isn't like, we shouldn't think of it as normal sound, like, oh, that's a nice sound or that's not a nice sound. But it's the sound of Dharma.
And it can't on the baby goes at Kali some doggeries, cut and did Chiran Katan Tonsa, ma.
You Oh, right, because her luggage she didn't get her luggage, so she actually doesn't have a thigh bone trumpet. Does anyone have a thigh bone trumpet?
I mean,
oh well, she said if we don't have one. Yeah, that's a little different. Oh well.
The Jason did it, though. Cut you know. Bursate.
But anyway, so we have, if we were to have a thigh bone trumpet, then it's like one end is the opening of the opening that you blow through, and then there's the end of it that has like the 2 that comes out of the 2. They look like two holes, but it comes out of the the joint, I guess.
The Jagakasala lean some Jagores.
So then you
Jump
thump
chin when yam
the
on the
part that you blow through onto your palm 3 times.
Te Garesina Dambo Motoke da Chujiranda Tuna Simjin Kamsar Neb Simji da Garesina Bardor Neb Simji Yedar Neb Simji Dundor Neb Simji da Matong ba Tonga da Matong Mamboyores. Didn't make them Jenny Nicoranzo Lem de Capsar, then Jumbo Chim Yam Chuan Be, Yam Chua Kashi Hedera, the so Madras is Chirans of Madras, in Mangan is Chirans got a Namda Chiego Maris, she the Mangan is Chirans of Tawani, the Namda Chiego Maris, or the ditch in the Timasum Dayari, the knitted Nipate, and it Jay at Jessican Jelan and children, Budari. Buddha. That Tayak Nana Chiran Tayak, Love Young Jim and Hakoma. Not so Kashila, hey, do, Jen do, and the Dramada de Buddha. Diana. That yes, in it and Buddha and secretary, Yena, not so hello, do, like and decided. Jen and hello, loud Tomala.
Not so young.
Hello.
Hey, love, get away.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
What in I see that? Jay, just Jenny, Nami in Chitita. Yan Toshute, Yarwana, Toshute, Sipetemore, Yan Toshune, Mashun Yarwanani, and it go that the Sipetemote Yara Marita. Yan Toshute Sipetemore, Mashude, and it Nara Yarwasinite, Kale Kashu, Mashudere. At the inches simply tamjig a new song, some, and it Yanjar book, and it tam the nut someone do some. And the Yanjar put in the sound of the tongue on so one saw the night. Lepson, some tradition in the Merum Tiares.
So as you tap, so first with the thigh bone trumpet, so you tap the end, first you say, those of you spirits who are not strong, don't be afraid, or those of you, sort of more shy spirits who are more shy is really what this is a very old translation. Also, I think also done by non-native English speakers, just to make that point. So maybe at some point there can be a kind of upgrade, but so there's so it's like all of you spirits who are kind of feeble or shy. So, and don't be afraid, and then you hit the once, and then no need to have fear. You really don't need to have, and you hit it again. You really don't need to have any fear, and you tap it a third time. So it says don't be terrified. Second, never be terrified. Third, so it's the first line, and then 3. So what this is doing is there are some beings, she said, so we're especially addressing those beings who are like in the bardo, or those beings who are hungry ghosts, or certain spirits or entities who are really very kind of timid, and they're it's difficult for them to they're very scared or shy, and so this is like particularly putting them at ease. And then on the next page, when we say K, so K is a word that is like, it's kind of like hey, I think, in English, but she said it's a certain type of word that if you study Tibetan grammar, there are these words, these sounds that have certain meanings that in this case is a little bit like hello or hey guys, so it's we're calling, we're shouting out to all sentient beings, and we're summoning them. So with each blow of the thigh bone trumpet. So first, we say all sentient beings from the tip of samsara down to the lowest hell. So this is encompassing like all the realms of like the highest of the God realms, of the formless realms, down to the lowest of the hell realms like Narak, or the hell of ceaseless torment. All beings without exception we're saying, listen to me. So with the first, then we blow, the first blow with the thigh bone trumpet. And they're summoned. And then all assemble here when we blow again. And then all beings quickly assemble here and we blow a third time. And so then by the third blow of the thigh bone trumpet, we think that all beings without exception have been summoned and are now here kind of gather in this gathering with us, that we're all gathered together, all sentient beings of the three realms.
Nasa da kandong buya den rochane da nguju di ngoso pamo teni da jertang ke mangbo she den pe mangbo re ngoso mezang bo jesum je sojog de she he yore teni ta na rupa chusar sum je sojog ramji je she he yore da de so she den ngoso de chu ro tolari Teni ngozo te karesina om soba wa shuda sarva dhamma soba wa shuda hang laya te karesina mazang ba je simchu sodo ramji ngozo lu te eni ramji tongpa yinpa je na ramji je tongpa ni ten chorus yang tongpa ni sinye de la goa ni yore tongpa tongjang ma yinpa zawa ni mepa maris zawa ni yupa jia maris Mipa mai jav jing ma se sanje kya cho yo mare jan tsawani ze yo mare yupa mai jav chang ma se mipa mai khonde kunji yuri lana yo mare lana khonde chama semge zodores kangba se ni kawa se ni jeze tende ta tendu ta ngoso kare jiksan korsine sarva imba tongba imba sar tong song do jupa che tenje che tene le de tenje chinis na ngoto tenje chini ta jangores
So then on page 4, so we have the recitation of the Swabhava mantra. And then we arise in the form of Vajrayogini. Our mind arises in the form of Vajrayogini. So what we're doing is we're transforming sort of this ordinary appearance of our body that is comprised of the 36 impure substances, or in some traditions they say 32 impure substances. And we could go through each one of those, but of course that would take a lot of time, so we won't get into that. But what we do is we recite Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma, etc., and then our body transforms, these 36 impure substances transform into their intrinsic nature, which is that of emptiness. And it is that there is emptiness, but it's not complete nothingness. There's clarity there. So there's the clarity aspect or luminosity aspect. And it isn't, when we speak of emptiness, it isn't like, it doesn't fall into either extreme of existence or non-existence. So we can't really say that it exists because everything is empty in essence. And we also can't say completely that it doesn't exist because it's not just a vacuum. But we have, there's the complexity or the variety of phenomenal appearances, and we experience, for instance, the experience of wandering in samsara. But what is that? What are all of these things that we witness, that we see, that we experience? They don't actually really exist. They're projected by the mind. They are mental projections that operate according to karma. And so we think that things really exist. We say there's a house, there are pillars. We think part of the delusion that we experience as samsaric beings is fixation to true existence. So attributing a true reality or a true existence to things when actually all is illusory in nature. It's an empty expression that is empty of inherent existence, that it doesn't really in actuality exist. And so the correct view is that which doesn't fall into the extreme of existence or non-existence, but understands the perfect union, the indivisibility of clarity and emptiness, or luminosity and emptiness. Things are They appear clearly, but they are empty of substantial nature. They are empty and yet they appear. So there's this unity, this indivisible union of emptiness and clarity.
Ani so bawa la na ta so bawa la de nga ke ngodria la gogore. En zam ko song thul ko la gogore ta ta ina ta nga ke ngodria da trashi beton res. Ani so bawa sinadin ani ramji shuda sinna takpa. Sarva dharma sinna chu tamje. Ani so bawa shuda hang sinna ramji takpa dani ta so takpa ramji je la sar damde ani
Swabawa Shuddha Garede? Oh.
so bawa shuda takpa ramji takpa dani os. So bawa shuda sarva dharma. So bawa shuda hang la yate teni tenyam de la ramji takpa dani os. Dani de ta sarje tongwa yang takpa takpa ramji.
So the meaning of the Swabhawa mantra. So Om is like the opening word which embodies auspiciousness. So it's like the syllable of auspiciousness or auspicious, auspicious goodness. And then Swabhawa means nature, and Shuddha means like purity or pure. Sarva Dharma means all dharmas or all phenomena. And then again, Swabhawa being nature, self-nature, or self-nature, I think self-nature is hung. And then Swabhawa is nature. And then Shuddha again is like purity. So it is essentially something along the lines of all dharmas or all phenomena are the nature of purity. And then I am that nature, that self-nature of purity.
Laso ni tak mayus pajar ti hla gomya te ha ko yu jiri te yan tik se tata dorje pamo nyamni chi ma nyongki na ta kujin chalo de so te sa ha ko ya da sa sarta lamna la sar da ya le law mare yina yan ta lo man ning ba na ko so hla kare gomna karesna ti gomshi sana ni le law res den de ta ngotso tata tyu de nyamne te dorje pamo indo de ni ko de ni chukut de maro jex chujukola pe mangpo yores yina ya pe ne tmala na mangpo la mangpo yora ko chujukut de maro je in chukote kongkote la mangpo yona ya ngo jikpa de ne choje ne regan chi chama ba ko na cho mangpo ba sa de tama temsa de gyamso na temdra cho chama de cho mangpo ba de pe re ma ba ro cho tama de gyamso na temdra de na shi ke ani chuju ko de ani dorje pamo ko de de ma ka ro je ris ro je ba en ngo tong ba yin ba ani kong na Nimo tokpa shejin darwasi konda nimo pa ke ducha shedang ke shejin darwa dar chajo yin sam ani shivas te jla shiva yin pa madapa chonde chosata madapa deso man darwa serte ani shimatro penna shiva yin pa la chon dema ri de jo katang e shin ba shimatros shima yinpa kaan ye lo chowo ke nyam teksa yinjo. De chowo de karesin mada pa tamche ndarwa chirte ani chowo yores. Perna ama je la puu che yuna, ama puu de ke jinda wo kor ya tang yang na chole tripe mangpo sa songa yina. 아마 그 초분냠도 대체라 실은 다 야면의 공토랑 다코 제와 침보리 제와 침보리데 공그 초로 마디나 부게 참지하고 말아 어디 나시게 마다바 선더설라 아니 초분냠 요레스
So then we arise. So the Swabhava mantra of establishing that fundamental purity of emptiness is established, and then we arise in the form of the deity. In this case, we're arising in the form of Vajra Yogini. And it's good to know, if some of you may already be very familiar with, but you want to become very familiar with all of the different attributes and ornaments and also their meaning, the kind of symbolic meaning. And it's important that when we visualize that our visualization is clear. And in the reason why here in the context of Chod we're arising as Vajra Yogini is because this is like so it embodies the Dharmakaya and all Sambhogakaya deities. So it's sort of like the source of all the different emanations, the different deities. It's like, just as she said before, all deities are one essence, but they appear in all sorts of varieties of different forms. She said like many like tributaries or streams that kind of flow, but they all merge in one body of water, like one big lake or in the ocean. And so that merging point is like Vajra Yogini, who embodies sort of this ultimate essence of all and is the essence of all deities and is herself empty in nature. And so Vajra Yogini is a semi-wrathful deity. So she is peaceful. So she's actually, the word in Tibetan, we say semi-wrathful when we translate it, but actually the word in Tibetan itself says is she's both peaceful and wrathful. So she's peaceful because she herself embodies that essence of a completely tamed or completely purified mind. So she's pacified the afflictive emotions. And then the wrathful aspect is out of her extraordinary compassion, seeing that there are still so many beings that need to be tamed. And so this is the wrathful aspect, the wrathful compassion that is assuming the different activities in order to tame beings to be tamed. And so when the way we can understand wrathful or wrath is that it really is the essence of great compassion. So the example that she gave is like a mother whose child is like picks up a sharp knife, or who has eaten too much chocolate. And then the mother runs to the child and sort of wrathfully gets them to, drop the knife or stop eating chocolate. But the impetus there is love, it's compassion. So the energy behind the wrath is extraordinary love or compassion, but the expression is the wrathful needs that is necessary to tame some beings who are difficult to tame. Mm-hmm.
아니 다 콘라티 파목 버지 요르잖아. 요인데 파목의 팍. 다 가르스나 콘가른 죽은 줄아미 바켓. 되니 말이지 장조 니지미 봐. 파라오나 꼭 개념나는 가르나 사로는 마도 대장 말이지 사야 대쪽바레스 야야 된저요 말이지. 된두 다 slag 딱바탄지데 slag 곰바갑사 하고고야 개침바레스. 하마고나 되니 록바차도 요레스. 벤나 벤도 차야나 다 파모케 야페르가 베베츠드 카탕가 요레 데 콩게 다 응데지나 콩제 카탕데 가디나 락데인도 촌 겐고도 리드 삼야 간도 머가통야다 다 때 김치 구파디 김치 요래 다니 다 잠베 양도 빼야긴 상막 하고 요래 콩게 라드테 요래 콩 시럽 그 시럽 라이 임바다니 빼 시럽라 라드나시 노보요바 손지가 되레지레 마도 콩머신 키 트르칸 딱바 요도 킨르탄데 마레스 안 진다가 하마올 라 곰탄데 되제 노완 트로와 유스나 양 깔레 용거라 덴덴ingen dorte 제이텐데 마슈yes.
So then Vajrayogini, so she also has a sow's head, a pig head coming out of the right side of her face. So what this represents is non-duality. So it is the non-duality of the changeless Dharmakaya, and in particular, freedom from concepts of clean and dirty, or pure and impure. So just like the pig, because the pig, the reason why we use the pig, or that's why that's the image, is because the pig sort of eats everything indiscriminately, whether it's filthy, whether it's clean, there's no concept of clean or dirty. Everything is fuel, everything is food, right? In the same way that everything is fuel for practice. So it is this freedom from non-duality, which is what is represented by the sow's head. And all of the various attributes of the deity's form have symbolic meaning. There's nothing that doesn't have symbolic meaning, and it's important to know what these symbolic meanings are. Otherwise, we can get confused. We can kind of give rise to wrong views. Like, for instance, if you don't know what she has the katvanga, and the katvanga represents, or the staff, the tripod staff, which represents the hidden nature of the heruka, the male consort, which represents method or compassion. And so if we don't know what that is, and we think it's like a staff that somebody, like an old person uses, like just think of it sort of literally. Or for instance, we see images like Manjushri, who has a big sword. And then we might think, oh, Manjushri is a warrior, or, that it has that the sword is representing warfare or killing or something. But actually, Manjushri's sword represents wisdom. So when we understand it and we see it with that understanding of the symbolic nature, then we don't have this sort of confusion about what we're associating these different implements and symbolic representations. We're not kind of misinterpreting them.
Ani dorje pamola jinsam yoris jinsam te tundate kanchna konke ta 데 마운 다다 두숨 그 되니 심지 탐지 산지지 살마고 가르데 아니 드로돈 제인선 아니 진섬 요레스
공다
진섬때 dorje pamor 진섬 요라드나 드나 진지 드나 남주지
드니 가레임
데 마운 다다 두숨나
드니 심신
산지 탐지 드로돈 제인시 진섬
마 상마 제기 바르
yeah.
So then she also has 3 eyes. So her 3 eyes are the 2 eyes and then the 3rd eye. And these 3rd eyes represent her omniscient wisdom, seeing into the 3 times of past, present, and future, and looking into the 3 times with the activity of achieving the benefit of beings from, now, or essentially throughout the 3 times, until all beings become Buddhas.
Then chilana ta something chilan rodonda chila karen rehet yinda karesna konke de mom tata tusum chama zik thong thapa zik thapa drin thapa den perna ngoto lakpa chena sher ya khana sher den rawina she de lakpa yan ye da yun da o dan ting da chama thong da o dina ye sanje ke de mom tata tusum chin thagres.
And so we can think of, the omniscient wisdom of those three eyes that sees into the three times. It's like the clarity of a crystal. If you hold a crystal in your hand, you can see through all the sides of the crystal, from the right side, through from the left side, from the top, from the bottom. It's just completely clear.
Danji tatrin zote so danji jima boshera danji sine perna jimba hukche sona teni semte ngoso pe karelan tompo charores perna go javli kangbal go javjana nano ke chirang ke go jam drosona chilo mon me nang torgma nano me chilo ton torgma di nachi de ngoso danji hukche bo cha somaina di nacha de dina yongres kaisina da penna jana dolor che yagan dolor che gen danga ma ni gen danga che gen danga ma danji hukche bo cha sona nga sa ma po che sona de tata trgok de pamok trgok do trgok jang dar de ani danji ju se ke serde ani trgok den songores de ngoso danji de hukche bo che yuson 강바 고잡리 나시리 고자 잡선 나시 perna chirang nang la yong san chirang go jam draw san nang draw kan demek me nang draw tama chlo tong tag mare danji de chong cha san de ngo so la da mad sa o de open chimbo dos ho tinje danji de ngo so chama zo ro yoris de perna kangba danji ge zo ro se danji hyok che san zamberlin tama thola tangge de danji res perna ta Russian Ukraine pe yakhan Russian de longba chong re Ukraine longba chong re ta danji shok che de Russian chembo re Ukraine chong re ta Russian ke samde on so chembo kala ta dong chong de len go sa ta de de nyoda chama danji ke chong re danji de nyon ro so na ngo so na cha de chong wa din zambelen shiwa de dewa din thot gores.
So the drikuk, or the curved knife that Vajra Yogini holds in her right hand, right? Represents cutting through self-grasping. So that's the theme also of today that we were discussing, is that this is what this whole practice is really about, is subduing the mind of self-grasping, cutting through the mind of self-grasping. So self-grasping is like, it's what makes people really closed. So it's like when you close and lock the door of a house, and then like nobody can get outside and nobody can come inside. So it's what is really the source of closed-mindedness. When there's less self-grasping, the mind becomes spacious and open. So, think about it. She said, when we say, sometimes we compliment someone and say, oh, that person's really open. They're really open-minded, or they're really open. And that openness is a result of having less self-grasping. Self-grasping makes the mind really hard and really closed. And so this is what the Drikung represents, is cutting through self-grasping. She said all of the problems in the world come from self-grasping. The more that we feed self-grasping, the more we will destroy this planet. And there is, all the warfare, all of the conflict, like even if we just think about the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, we have Russia, which is this big country, and Ukraine, which is a really small country. And it's really self-grasping that is behind, Russia, even though it's so big, it still feels like, oh, we need to take more land. We need to acquire more. We need to conquer. We need to expand. We need to, and so that much of that kind of conquering mindset that we see played out in the world, really the source of it is just self-grasping. And so however much individual beings can work to diminish the self-grasping in their own mind streams, then we will have a greater peace and happiness on a global scale.
Ngarang nyamnyang thone di danji de kale tenyo yus perna danji sin de jyo ina de pamjo ina zopo ina changma da de zono res ngaran de na hima de nagan macha de oh danga na de pe dopo cha danga na te samdu na cha dug rin roya da de ni kange cher semna kange na cha de ya lang jo do cha dos den jo ne ngarang oh ta te ngarang pe na maria de ka hegland ta tiran na te amchel matina sam de ka amchel matin ngoso ma de sa de ki le zo Chonghua je yor magin je na de cha na ni de kaka na ni de ma cha de do cha de na ha ka yen ala ta chira am che za ma ro ina na de do cha res de lam de kap sar oh ngara ta de na hi cha nga ka de jin ro go na chron ro de ngam da lan de ka na cha le go do ane ta so nyamne jo dorje pamo nyamne chi teni tende chen ta ko kare chan cha si ngarang chu dem do ko dugja de cha je mare chi so ma pa de ya na sa te chikpa ri da ri je sem ge zon ro ha ten ya na sa te koran la na je na da sem ge zon de jin ka me de ten ko ko me de ani tende chen ne am char ma te lo pa cha lo che ni sar pe nyang so de tende chi ma chon don da na ta de da sons tende ngara ke nyam nyam to ne shu che ban do sente chama tende ji zo ro res na ta in da ta pen kang ba chen bo je yu na o ta don ti che so ko do so la sha mi ban ro ta san je ke song le de ngoto le de ani Drikung na shiris namshi den Drupon na shiris ta shi sana so la chi chu gewa ta samba zambo kriya ma to kangba jable kor pamjer jable kor na ron ro ya yo maris to tsama ke tongju nyung jores den de ta zawani ni kangba desa mi zawani ni saya mi na ngoto kale redwa de ma to shu ji shukchen bo ji cha so na zamlen tsama deni karesna pe tenchal hado symbol na sa yung ki tsama mang chu shi de chukpo de so kange yore de is pamjor de ma cha na ani ta ran shi ja ya des ran shi jam na ko ran shi jab tsawen jola so la kange chere ma to deni zon de ran shi ja ya me wa cha ro ma pardon ka se kale che chia yore this is tsama same goes the jores
So she says she herself had a really profound experience with self-grasping, working with her own self-grasping, and how, you know, the more that self-grasping was fed, then actually the problem just can get worse and worse. So, you know, we all have self-grasping arise in various forms with, you know, when it's like sort of directly just focused on the self, but then also in respect to possessions and things, you know, feeling like really attached to, or this need to acquire wealth and possessions and so forth. And with our own body. So she said when she was actually in retreat, in 3-year retreat, she ended up getting this sore on her nose that it got really, really, it sounds to me like it got infected. It became like a serious infection. And it was really inflamed and kind of pussy and broke, you know, there was like breakages in it kind of. And it really, you know, she was really disturbing her, and she tried all these different things and it wasn't getting better, and she really didn't know what was going on, and she was in retreat. And she didn't want to break retreat to go see a doctor. And when they had like short breaks where the other retreatants could see each other, the other retreatants were like, oh, you got to do something. You have to go see a doctor. If you don't go see a doctor, your nose is going to split. And there was somebody in the refugee village called Dekiling, which is kind of like a walk from the nunnery, but like a kind of the refugee village there in the region in Dehradun. And there was this man who had a split nose, like basically he had two noses, somehow. And so she was convinced that her nose was going to split and she was going to have this huge deformity. And it was really painful. And it was also just really scary because she was like, what's going to happen? She's going to become completely deformed. And there's, and the more that she focused on it, the worse it got. Like it would get really, like she would get anxious. Her mind was really concerned, and so then also the nose would become more painful. But then as she practiced, and then she just thought, settled into the practice, generated herself in the form of Vajrayogini, and then her mind would settle and she would really be in a space of like, whatever happens, happens. That what is most important is the inner practice. And she just stayed with the practice. And she had this problem, this issue with her nose, and was sick for like 2 years, but then in retreat. And then as she continued to practice, it got better and better. It actually eventually ended up healing itself. And she thinks that this was because of her practice and how she directed her mind and how she related to the illness, to the problem. And so this is really, whenever all of the different ways in which self-grasping manifests, the way that we relate to that grasping inwardly makes a tremendous difference. There are so many people who are unsatisfied with their lives, because there's this idea that, if they are bigger, if they're greater, if they're more successful, that somehow they'll finally be satisfied. So they have a nice house and yet they're still not satisfied. They want a bigger house, or they make enough money, but they're still not satisfied. They need to make more money. And so really, our time on this earth is really short. As is said, the body is just like a guest house, and the consciousness, the mind, is like a traveler, the guest that's just inhabiting this body for a short period, and then we move on. And so really, what is the only thing that is really of much importance in our lives is what we do with our mind, how we direct our mind to avoid what is unwholesome or harmful, and how we direct our mind to practice what is wholesome and virtuous. That apart from our inner spiritual practice, there's really not much that we need to be paying attention to. Of course, if we don't want to be completely, there is a need to tend to be responsible and tend to our basic necessities. If we don't have a home to live in, then this is problematic. If we don't have enough food or enough money to feed ourselves or to be properly nourished, then that's problematic. But when there's enough, when we have a house, when we have the means to sustain ourselves, we really don't need much beyond that. And so if there's this focus of constantly wanting to acquire more, this kind of just feeds or leads to that cycle of intensifying self-grasping. Actually, she said, it seems like sometimes the people who are the most wealthy and the most successful in life actually suffer the most because of this lack of contentment, this sort of constant drive to try to get more, to achieve more. She said, there are stories she's heard many times about people who are very, very rich who suddenly, if they lose all their money, they can't handle it. They kill themselves, because they're so devastated by this failure, this loss. And of course, once somebody commits suicide or kills themselves, they might think that, oh, this is going to end my suffering, but the consciousness continues on. So if you're then just engaging in more, creating the causes for more hardship, for your own mind, the mind will then go to the bardo and continue to suffer. So by, ending one's life, this doesn't in any way, actually stop the pain or stop the suffering.
Tendrijin da danji ki tendriji shuk chenbo chi cha sona da ranshi jaya dan tendri mangpo chi cha yore da tendri kola shuyu chi xie de na choyo mare de da dordi chi shu simbari da mangpo chi xie de na zor de choyo mare da pechan rog mara ya
Re yang da ta karma chunga ma to mendo.
medo oh that okay then there that jetang ngarang de did now capsule ngarang ke shu ji che ni si de zo chi nam pala ya chabda ji ya den de che mes yina ya ngarang ke nyam nyong thola jamin na nga kan zam da she yo den de nyam nyong thola she na den so so ke pe pi do chen bo do lam de da de napso ka ta wa chi pa indo de pinjere samsa Dedi kapsal ngarang na pen na jap na de so changma chang ka chang den de pen yang so jin de ni ma wo zam de shago na la pa chana chimbo de yang den de lo lo ji so la gom ja de he de ni yang di sam no de ma ko ren de ani sem lo cha de do ta ma de so he na de ko de yang ya lang de jo ni ni rumbo che pep ni ma che rumbo che pep do la Kenza shu jongsong ati de kaps. Na ngozo chudok kaps ta re kapo che ten ngati babdin khala de gom ja de. Ani Drupon de nga sons. Gikong dong sa. He sons. La shu ba. Ta ngozo Drupon na ke cha she chore. Me yinda na ke cha she chomar yegen dot. Oh ta tang garjin bo chi pek do 또 chransun jopo trusons chalo trumbo je shira yu long yo mare la so la ba de ni ba nga de ni ben chong ya de na pa bab ja san chong ko ja sa de se yora under check den kenza san din de chok chen bon chong ya yu je sa re sam sa ane den jon dar to lon jopo ko ngo son ro ta nga ta pa je lo che sa la ta chue je mare den na ja de long pa cha no ko don ro da ta chue dong ba chue ma pa na po ta pa ya de ne ren bo che ja de de nga ngo shor so nga de na so de na de la sanap je ro che la ne ren bo che ke an de je kon ke chi ma de de cho an de jo da jo ta jung ko mare chran nyam ne pe ya po che de ke dik pa ta re chran ga gong ko re pe ya pore son ta de dik pa ta ya pore son nga pe samba shuk tempo chowa ji lep so ta kong di ngozo bo pa ka pe ngozo ke rumbo lama la ya la rumbo che de zang ma po pa in zang ma nabza in zang ma pe ya de ke tempo yor nang la din rumbo che kalom nang so de na ni kong peps 다 나한테라 삼노제 건 다른 보지 되지 송송 nga chung mare tes pe gas njon tis kong ke zende jin ngala jia ta kong ting mani so de nga takpara na po cha takpa sin ha kora takpa lan pe zo domba ma chete da ma po domba ma chete ko takpa yora ta kong pe zo nge zu sang samso ta je ngui dene ngui de ta shi yo mar ngui den ta gonda ta rumbo che ngarang la ke cha she ta rumbo che gonda nge chi zo zu so gonda la ani de ya re den de ne den zong de nga den chong ro so nyong na sa sem ge chama sem ge zo
gon rembache la gonda shudu kong yo pe ka
yo mare
chi
ngarang la semne kan sina 다 파가니 ngoso rimbochi pepdu ji gatsara simba gatsara kong 가레제나 셈는도 철라 삼노 당라 다데 nga nakpo cha zo chakpa lora doglo matrina yuren bo matrina chakpa yora dina hinga dongba chakpa yora na kong kan de chera nga ta zo cha son bo chi tren zo su son ji
So she said, in brief, like,
ta ta zo ma song de ya sar chi ma ko ya ta
no, be ya pore. Kare song gane.
mo so ko silam thongara
I'm just trying to figure out where I left off with my notes. So she said, in brief, there is, so all of our suffering really comes from that mind of self-grasping. And so she shares some about her own experience, not to sort of like brag or say like, oh, I had this like difficult experience that I overcame, but actually, and it isn't a tradition actually to really talk that much about one's own experiences in meditation or in the context of practice. Traditionally, that's something that's usually like not talked about. But she said that her experience has been that in the West, when she shared some about her own experience, that people say they really benefit from it because it's like gives something to relate to, and they can kind of, and it's inspiring. And so she has seen that is actually something that she's finding to be effective to kind of share in that personal way with people here in the West. And so to further talk about what happened there with the nose situation in retreat, so she was in retreat, she was continuing to practice, and one day the Drupon came to the door and knocked on the door and said, hey, and she said, oh, lo, but she said, actually, it should be said that in retreat, she wasn't allowed to speak to anybody except for the Drupon. So that's the one person that you're allowed to speak to in retreat. So he alerted her that her lama, Garchen Rinpoche, was coming. He was in India, and he was coming by to see her. And so at that time, she was practicing the 6 Yogas of Naropa. So she was like naked, except for like a white, very thin white shawl, because that's what you wear when you practice 6 yogas. So she was coming, and she thought, oh, she better like put some clothes on. So she said something really strange happened, because she was sitting in this one spot, and then she she leapt. Somehow she covered this really far distance in her room, like almost like she flew to the other spot, which was like all the way across the room, and she just suddenly jumped and like managed to cover like all the way across the room. And she was sitting in the other spot, and she was like, that's kind of strange, that she just like leapt to cover all that distance. And then she quickly like covered herself up, and then Rinpoche came. And, her face, because when she washed her face, it made the nose worse. Like it seemed to infect the nose more. And she hadn't washed her face in like a year. So her face was really dirty and just like covered with kind of like, they have a certain word for it. In Tibetan, I don't know how we say that, because most people bathe so much, but like whatever it's called, when you have buildup, like black buildup on your face and on your body from not washing. And Rinpoche came in, and she was so, overwhelmed, to see him. And she just was crying and said, oh, Rinpoche, I'm so, this terrible problem, with her nose. And she was, really crying, and, it just saying, it won't go away, and it's just getting worse and worse. And please, give me your blessing, to heal from this. And he was so kind and so compassionate, as he is. And he just took licked his finger and then rubbed it on her nose a few times. And then she she felt like her mind became completely filled with a feeling of peace and devotion. And then after he left, she kind of thought about it later, and then like the mind of self-grasping and all the doubts kind of came in, and she felt so ashamed that she had been so dirty, when Rinpoche came and saw her, and that he touched her nose and it was so dirty, and she was really overwhelmed with a feeling of, feeling kind of regret, because normally she said, as you know, the tradition, like when there's a high lama or, our guru, we're always like making sure to like make sure everything is clean and perfect, and we're making, like offering them the best tea and like, giving them the best clean cup and all of that. So she was feeling this remorse that she, was so dirty, and her and he touched her nose, that was so dirty, and then she was like crying and like, please, Rinpoche, forgive me, or I'm so sorry, that I, in her mind. But then the blessings that she received from him that day, really, she recovered. It was really just like then very quickly that she started to see this change in her nose, and it got better and better, and then completely went away after meeting Rinpoche and receiving his blessing.
Okay. 다 딘딘데 잠자 콘솔에 딘딘데 셰드 핀토요레 단 니바토 니양 곰자 토르가 강에 제체리 단 대양 파모케 이나다 라 곰네 트렌저 흉침보요레 ngaran yan di samne de kapsala late gom shipa kan yela deni tingchang tangka na shi par na shi kura na shi la gom ya yo mares la seva den semna sancho sem yimpa ani jau karan shi ani ngaran pamo kapsari tang so kaju pa drikung kaju na so te depani na demjo pamoni depalan kotri demjo pamoni ani te du ta pamotela yang de dana goje yora pak go ta so jau gram ji te la gomashi dan gomashi den ta ngaran pe sari sawa gomi gom te den nima te teni pe na hado
chirang
nima te pe na so de demba ngana pa mo de pe sa lang te gom kujin chala sama gom de ta chik non thar kare do ti khandu da ngana la ante chik jemba ta jau granji na semya yo mara ngara samno na o tan jau granji che hintis ante che to o ngara ri kan sa ani pe na do kanche o ta na pa mo go che desan te che to ba ta nga ka de do so ke gom java kanje la pa mo ke samno te do je samno tang do je ta do je te na per na popa na shi ya de na te na ya de naura ta pa ta ko jau ka ram ji gom sa na nau mara kon ja na shi ja so ya me ba ta nga te pe non sare jiram gom ya te nor sare sa ani Drupon na kon ke time ba nga pamo gom ya pe kale kapo do la ba kande do so kale kapo yore ta kang ba ngoya so kang ba ngoya la dia de and de katan de and do ta pamo goya nga pe kale kapo do la kare do se ta pango de do nga ke na do la jing ba ani tinjen do ta kang ba ngoya so kang ba ngoya la dia pe kale ta kong game of horso chirante norris chiran pamo gomtu jau gram ji chi gongol ma chirante ne pango jar de jo che do de gonan norris dine o ta dinde de notary dine ya jar da gomde dine ya po chaso dinde gom jaya da to changla le tangbo politics kale yore dinde chi na par ma ngarang kange tang chungjo de chi na ba shu ya na o la gomya dinde nord dindin jekdu sa par na shi tang kondra na shi tangka na shi gomya mi song re ta dinde yang kha she sang ro o buban nang ba la par ta tangka mang bo do si gupa jim chi mi do si ta gupa jim chi yore yang Pero tinya mina la tende yore la dena hakumara. Oh tende tini la kare gomna tende jinta jao kran ye ba tende je konkores.
So we're getting close to the lunch break, but she said she would just, another thing she thought she would share from her own experiences that's connected, in general with just meditation and meditating on the deity in general. So, we have, and we're taught, that we meditate on the deity, we visualize all of the attributes of the deity really clearly, that this aspect of clarity is very important. And we're also told, that we don't meditate on the deity like we're solid form, like a flat image on a tanka, like a kind of, of solid matter, like a statue, but that it is the nature of like rainbow light, right? That the deity is bodhicitta, its appearance is very clear and vivid, but it has this attribute, this nature of being like rainbow light, and so she herself, she had heard this, and she had gone through, the stages of meditating that did the chakra samvara, which is Vajrayogini and chakra samvara in union, and but then when she got to Vajrayogini, and she was meditating on Vajrayogini, she had some difficulty, like she was really clearly visualizing it. She was focusing a lot on the clarity of her visualization, and she kind of thought that she was meditating on the way she was supposed to, but she started having, and it was challenging because there were these things, it was like she was really thinking of it as her body, kind of, and there was, she was visualizing the sow's head coming out of her neck, and then by really focusing on that with intensity, her neck started to hurt. She started to develop like a lot of neck pain. So like you can imagine, if you're thinking that there's like this thing growing out of your neck, that after a while it's going to like hurt, it's going to ache. And and it was also hard, like, Vajrayogini's right leg is lifted up and she's like holding things, and, so she was, something about the way she was meditating on it was just like a little bit, there was like too much identification with her normal form. And then like at one point she was sort of like, oh, I'm supposed to meditate on it as like being like rainbow light, and then she kind of touched herself like this, and she was sort of like, oh no, I'm still solid, and so she was thinking, what at one point she went to her Drupon, her retreat master, and she said she was really having difficulty meditating on Vajrayogini, and he asked her why. And she said, well, because of the pig's head, like coming out of my neck is really hurting. And he really just started to chuckle. He was laughing and was like, you're not meditating on it like like it's your actual body, but it's the nature of light, rainbow light. It's like a rainbow in the sky. And somehow she received like this instruction, this pith instruction from him. But then when she went back and did the meditation again, it was like it just clicked. It fell into place, and then she didn't have any more issues with it. But, there is sometimes, this confusion that arises because of all the imagery and just kind of the way that maybe one associates kind of the inner visualization with the tankas and so forth. And some people say, why do we have so many tankas in Tibetan culture, like so many different deities, so many versions of tankas? And she said, like, what's the point? There's no purpose, there's no point. And she said, but there is a purpose, because this is like our roadmap to visualization. So we see these depictions and then we know how to visualize, and that is what they're meant to represent. They're meant to be kind of meditational supports that help us to become familiar with the appearance of the deity, and then we're able to meditate visualizing, according to what we're really familiar with in the tankas. But it's so important to add that aspect of, the rainbow-like form, like clearly appearing like but illusory in nature. So that was just another experience that she thought is these kinds of experiences are the faults that sometimes arise for beginners when practicing. So in her own experience, to share that. She thought it might be helpful and, kind of clearing away maybe some misunderstanding for someone if, because that was how it happened for her.
Denis Songshana. Dadan Korde Tamji. Nishitsardo.
So we can do short dedication prayer on page
26.
She said 26. She wants us to do
Tibet.
26 in Tibetan. Yeah.
Inchi. Inchi.
Okay. Yeah. Then.
Dadan Korde Tamji Jitusan Saupatan. Yebegeve Zawandi Dadan Simjian Tamjin Yurdananami Yanta Barzo Bazan Jorumbo Jeto Barjuji.
By the power of the merit I have accumulated, the power of the merit and samsara and nirvana in the 3 times, and by the power of the primordial merit of Buddha nature, by all this may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the perfect enlightenment state of Buddhahood.
Sunam de tam che se pa ni to ne ni pe drana pan se te chi ga nan che ba non tro pa hi se ben so le tro wa sho.
By the merit I have accumulated, may I overcome all erroneous attitudes and reach the omniscient state. May all sentient beings who suffering in the ways of birth, old age, illness, and death be free from the ocean of samsara.
Chanchu semchu rinpoche mahaji
Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise; where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tujiche. Dankeschön.
So when do we come back here? At 2, okay. Yeah. So actually she can do it at any time. So whatever you guys, I wasn't informed if there's like a certain order that we have but probably we can just let her know. Maybe Dennis didn't chito sir let na do satena go matsune gingona. Yeah, so maybe when we come back after the lunch break, then first we can start with some question and answer, and then we'll just start with the practice. And actually I was going to mention, since there aren't many Dhammarus, it seems maybe what you might want to do to help out your friends who don't have Dhammarus is perhaps there could be a little bit of sharing and passing them around so different people can get a chance to try. Mm-hmm.
So is it the problem if we don't have?
No. Te daru mena tene te kable yorebe. You can also just practice with the bell too, or with just the motions. You can also do it with your train with your hand motions, and then if we can pass them around maybe.
Thank you.
Charge ganda yoba na hako me. Kani ante ke charge ganda yoba hako me yani an ste dampo pagela.